What's good, Eagles fans? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I want to chat with you guys about the trade deadline, and I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, right? You got so many people that's wanting for the Philadelphia Eagles to make a big splash. They're talking Brian Burns, and before Christian McCaffrey was traded to the 49ers, everyone was saying we need to go get CMC. There are so many people who basically just want the Eagles to jump off a cliff and make the biggest splash possible over the trade deadline. And I'm not really in agreement with that. Now, this is my mindset. The Philadelphia Eagles are one of the most complete teams in the NFL. If you think about the way they've been discussed all across NFL circles and football circles, they've been notoriously known and identified as being one of the most complete teams in the NFL. So, why would I, as the GM, make a drastic move or a hasty move at that to upset what I'm building or what I've built? This team right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have so much chemistry right now. They're playing as good as we've seen them play in a long time. And the thing is, they can get better. That's the scary thing about this Philadelphia Eagles squad right now. They haven't even begun to tap into what they really can be. They have yet to really put together a complete game of football. And I firmly believe that this team truly hasn't tapped into their fullest potential. But we're only 7 weeks deep into the NFL. We have 10 more weeks to go. And the Philadelphia Eagles have to play the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. But when it comes to the trade deadline, I'm not one of those guys that wants the Philadelphia Eagles to go out there and make a splash. That's just not my mindset. Just because it's a big name doesn't mean it'll work. Just because the person has notoriety doesn't mean it'll fit. It has to make sense. And if the move don't make sense, I'm not jumping off a cliff and doing it. And I don't think Howie Roseman is that guy either. Now, we've heard word that Howie Roseman has called around about Brian Burns, and he's called around potentially about Bradley Chubb and maybe some other edge rushers around the league. And look, I'm not against making a move at the trade deadline. I want to make my position very, very clear. I'm not against making a move at the trade deadline, but for one, it has to make sense. But for two, I don't think we should put ourselves in a bond by bringing in a big name or a guy that's looking for a large contract once he gets here. And that's not something that's going to help us in the long term, especially when we have a bunch of guys on this roster who have 1-year deals and a bunch of guys that we still need to figure out who's getting what, how much we're paying them for how long, so on and so forth. So I'm not one of those guys that wants to jump off a cliff and just bring in a guy, leverage all my draft picks for him, and then give him an extension as well. The rumor was Brian Burns, that the Panthers wanted 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns. I don't really believe that because if they were offered 2 first-round picks like they say they were, I'm pretty sure they would have bid on that because Brian Burns is not worth 2 first-round picks. I'm sorry. He's talented, but he's not worth 2 first-round picks. He's not a generational talent in that regard, and that's no disrespect to him. That's just a reality. He's been productive every single year in the NFL. Let's not get it twisted. But he's not generational, if you ask me. He's not worth 2 first-round picks. But I understand being a fan of the Eagles, you see other teams making moves and you're envious and you want your team to essentially keep up with the Joneses and you want your Philadelphia Eagles to continue to build space and leverage between opposing teams that are trying to come for the number 1 spot, right? You know, the Eagles are undefeated, but you have teams like the Cowboys that are right behind them. You have teams like the Giants that are right behind them. I'm not really worrying about them in the grand scheme of things, but there are 2 teams that I pay attention to in the NFC above all those. I'm paying attention to the Cowboys and I'm paying attention to the San Francisco 49ers. And those are 2 teams that have already made moves at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline, however you want to break it down or discuss it. But they both made moves. San Francisco brought in Christian McCaffrey. Very solid move, but they leveraged a lot to bring him in. And if it doesn't work out, if they don't win this year, heads are going to roll in San Francisco. Now, when it comes to the Cowboys, they decided to bring in defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins. They traded for him with the Las Vegas Raiders and the Las Vegas Raiders. And here's the fascinating thing about what the Cowboys did. They brought in a guy that defends the run better than anybody they have on their roster. Jonathan Hankins comes to the Cowboys being the highest graded run defender on that roster. So he's going to make an immediate impact as soon as he gets there. So think about that. They made a move to directly combat what we do well, and that's run the ball. They've been getting gashed in the run. So they understand that in order for us to try to crawl back to the top of the NFC East, In order for us to try to compete with the Philadelphia Eagles, we have to find a way to neutralize what they do well, and that's run the ball. Jonathan Hankins instantly helps that. So I respect the move in that regard, right? It's not a husky move. It's not a move that's going to break the bank for him, but it's a logical move. It's a sound move. And that's the kind of move I want the Philadelphia Eagles to make. I want the Eagles to make a sound decision. I'm not looking for a superstar to come in here. We have too many guys on this team already that are star talents, guys that are doing great work at what they do. There's no need to make a big splash at the trade deadline. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going after a guy that's going to add to my rotational pieces. Maybe an edge rusher, maybe a running back. I'm not bringing in someone at a position that's going to require too much time for them to acclimate or too much time for them to adjust. I don't have time for that. We're in a position where we need to continue to just stack these wins and continue to prove that we're the best team in the not only the NFC East, not only the NFC, but in the NFL. But it begins with the NFC. And so far, so good. So, in my opinion, no need to really upset the apple cart. No need to really make a splash. Go get a piece that you can add to the defensive line, that adds more depth, right? Go get another running back that you can add, maybe a power back or something like that, or maybe another receiving back, a guy that can just add another dimension to your defensive line or to your run game. But I don't think the Eagles need to go out there and just break the bank and leverage everything they have on a big splash at the trade deadline. They're not that desperate. You feel what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion about it. I know some people feel differently. I know a lot of people want the Eagles to go out and leverage everything for Brian Burns. That's not me at all. I'm just not on that train with you guys. You got some people who want the Eagles to just jump out the window and give up everything for anybody. And that's just not how this works, right? Now, there's some running backs that I am interested in, like Kareem Hunt. I think he will add to what we do, but he's kind of similar to what Miles Sanders already does. So you got to keep in mind that he's looking for a contract. So then you're going to have to worry about two running backs that are looking for a payday, Miles Sanders and Kareem Hunt. So again, I'm not for the Eagles making a hasty decision. It has to be a sound decision. It has to be a reasonable decision. Whoever they bring in at the trade deadline, I'm pretty sure Howie Roseman is going to make a move. Whatever move he does make, I expect it to be logical, and it's not going to upset what we're already doing. When you bring in a big name like a Brian Burns, when you bring in a big name like a Christian McCaffrey, you have to understand that those guys demand for you to adjust how you run your offense or your defense, right? Brian Burns coming in, he's going to demand a high snap count. He's a young guy. Who are you taking snaps from? And then when it comes to Christian McCaffrey, the way he plays the game, how productive he is, when you bring him in, your offense kind of needs to flow through him in a way. But he's in a good situation with San Francisco. San Francisco sees the writing on the wall. They brought in CMC to compete with us. The Cowboys, they see the writing on the wall, and they brought in Jonathan Hankins from the Las Vegas Raiders, one of the top tier run defenders in the NFL. They see the writing on the wall, and they're trying to compete against us. So, look, when you're 6-0, when you're the lone undefeated team, when you're at the top of the totem pole, you become prey. But that doesn't mean you're not a predator as well. And you need to continue to make moves that make sense and continue to beat your opponents and throttle them every single week. But again, it begins and ends with sound decisions, not hasty ones. And I'll leave it at that. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I would really appreciate that. The like button is like currency in this YouTube game. The more you guys hit that like button, the more the content grows, the more the channel grows, and the more people we'll have here getting spicy in the comment section and in the live chats whenever we go live. So make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys continue to stay engaged. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry.